Good morning, everyone. Everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that we can all hear me. Okay, so I would want to officially welcome us all to the knowledge sharing session organized by NGCL on understanding gap analysis. We want to specially welcome you all. This is we can say a form of CSR by NGCL in order to be able to impact our clients, prospects, and the general public on the uh, quality management system and management systems generally. We're just trying to give in our quota, and I really want to appreciate everyone that is on the call this morning.
Thank you.
So before I go on, I would appreciate if we can all mute ourselves. That will help for effective communication all through the session. Okay, so before I go ahead to introduce the trainer for today, I would want us to introduce ourselves. Um, because of time, it might be a lot of time for us to do that on the verbally, that is using the microphone. So I would appreciate if we can send in our names and our expectation, name, designation, expectation into the chat box. So while we're doing that, I would also want to introduce myself. My name is Adobe Chibuzo. I work for NGCL. So the key highlight of today's session is for us to be able to define gap analysis, its importance, identify types of gaps, being able to differentiate between performance, process, and knowledge gaps with examples, develop practical skills that would help us in closing out gaps within our management system, discuss advantages of this knowledge, and then promote open discussions and sharing of best practices. Please, just as I said earlier, I would want to reemphasize that it would be awesome if we silence our phones, because so that even when you have the opportunity of unmuting your mic, we don't have to start hearing noises on your background. A speaker at a time in a case where we have the opportunity to speak. Be open to learning, be ready to unlearn and relearn. Kindly mute your mics so that we can effectively communicate and we can all hear ourselves. Okay, so I would want to tell us a bit about NGCL. I know a lot of us already know NGCL and what we do. However, it's also important to note that I'm sure that there are some people on the call that do not know. So NGCL is an ISO certification company. We provide ISO certification and training services to organizations and individuals. So we provide ISO 9001-215 certification of organizations. However, we provide diverse trainings, quality management system, environmental management system, food safety management system, quality and health safety, and a lot of others. We provide these trainings in the levels of awareness, internal auditor training, and lead auditor training. It's important for you to know that we also have a couple of certificate holders, and a few of them is Mayor PLC, Dynamic Industries, Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, Alpha Pharmacy, Fevix, and a lot of others I cannot be able to mention at this time. NGCL prides itself in its affordability while still providing excellent services to its customers. We're very customer centric and we provide value added service delivery. We have affiliation with the Nigeria's foremost BMO, which is NECA, which has been a major advantage to NGCL. You can visit us at www.ngcl.org.ng to get to know more about us, or even in our office, 5th floor, NECA House, A2 Hakim Balogun Street, Alausa, Ikeja. So at this point, we'll be introducing our facilitator for today. I would want to confirm, Mr. Momo, are you on the call already? I saw you earlier. If you are, kindly unmute yourself just to confirm to me that you're here already, please.
I'm here. I'm here with you.
Okay, Mr. Samuel. So our facilitator for today is Mr. Momo O. Samuel. His organization is PPMMSS Limited, where he is the managing consultant. He has competencies as a lead implementer, lead auditor, and subject matter expert on ISO 9001, ISO 14001, and 45001. 14001 being management system, all of these management systems standards. Even though Mr. Momo, in all of his simplicity, might not want us to say a lot about him, but I would want to assure you that he's the best person to handle this, and you're going to have to learn a lot. And if you implement the things that he is able to share with us, it's going to be quite impactful to you. I would want us to continue introducing ourselves on the chat room so that we'll at least know who is on call, and tell us your name, your designation, and your expectation from the KSS. Okay, so at this point, I would want to hand over to Mr. Samuel. Mr. Samuel, I'll stop sharing my screen for you to do that. Thank you all for being on the call one more. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to you all.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, please, before I go on, how long do I have in terms of time?
Sir, can you manage 40 minutes?
40 minutes, okay, I'll try.
That's okay, that's fine. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. As she has rightly said, my name is Momo Samuel Onakume. I work with Pinnacle Plus Management System Solutions Limited. We have our office here in Lagos, and I'm actually really glad and appreciate the opportunity given to me this morning to be able to anchor this brief session, awareness session with you. So it's likely going to be an interactive one. So at any point in time, if you probably have any question, just use the icon to signify by raising up your hand. Then I'll probably pause and be able to attend to your questions. So before I proceed, let me ask, can you all see the screen? I think I shared my screen. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So as
yes, I can see.
Okay, fine. So as the person who did the introduction has said, the session is actually based on, is a knowledge sharing session. So that's why I said I want it to be an interactive one, and is based on understanding gap analysis. So I'll be taking you through briefly based on the little that I know on gap analysis in relation to ISO management system standards. But on a broader perspective, you can actually, I've actually prepared the material in such a way that it's going to be applicable. That's applicable, it cuts across all spheres of life. So apart from business, personal, and all that, so this particular subject is actually applicable. So I'm actually going to be broad in terms of application, but it's still the same thing. Either way, either as an individual or as a corporate entity, gap analysis is gap analysis and is applicable the same way. So good morning to you all once again. Let's start by looking at before we go on, let me just run you through the class rules. Let's put all our phones either on silent vibration or you put them off to avoid distractions. Then let's stay focused, avoid unnecessary distractions. Let's try to manage our time well, avoid executive meditation, and avoid being absent-minded. One of the shortcomings of a virtual trainings is the ability to just drift off at any point in time without really being able to monitor you. If you have been in a classroom situation, your facilitator will be able to see you probably when you're dozing or you are getting distracted on your phone or something. But this virtual training, that's one of the challenges anyway with virtual training. So it all boils down to self-discipline, determination, and commitment. So just try to do all you can to get or make the best of this brief period that we have for this training. So let me go straight to the introduction, gap analysis. So I'll start by taking us through or sharing with us my little knowledge of what gap is. I want to believe that there's this saying that where the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. So I like to start by allowing us to, taking you straight to the subject matter. What exactly is gap? Because everything centers around gap analysis. So let's start with gap. Gap is, can be defined as the difference between a current state or your present position and that other state or position where you are dreaming or aspiring or expecting to be. So that's actually gap. Gap is the in-between, that vacuum, that space between where you are presently and where you want or where you desire or where you plan or are planning to be. So based on if you look at your screen, I probably put some diagrammatic presented form of diagrams for you to be able at least to give you better understanding. The first circle represents where you are presently, either as an organization or as an individual. And then the other circle represents that place that you want to be, that objective that you want to achieve, that goal that you want to achieve, or that plan that you already have in place which you want to realize, or whatever as the case might be, we would go on. So that's actually what a gap is. It's a vacuum, a difference, a space between two things. So like I said, in this case, for the purpose of for learning purposes, we'll be restricting the things involved here to yourself, your organization, and particularly your dreams and aspirations or your goals. So having looked at what gap is, now if you look at the diagram we have here, you see a particular person standing on one side of the cliff and then looking at the other end. So he is on one side. The person here could be your organization. It could be you as an individual. But that's what the definition says, that gap is the difference or the vacuum, the space between two things. So on one hand, you have an individual there or an organization. And then on the other hand, you have his or her aspirations or the organization's goals. So you have his or academic pursuits. It could be your dreams, for example, could be academic pursuits, could be your performance targets, could be your vision as an organization which you want to realize, could be your mission, could be objectives, whether quality objectives, health and safety objectives, environmental objectives, marketing objectives, production objectives, whatever these objectives are that you intend to achieve is on the other end. Then we look at targets, KPIs, different parameters and criteria that have been used to define targets for you. Then we also look at, probably I brought up the example of countries to visit, for example, for people or someone who might have the intention or the plan to say, look, I'm here in Nigeria, but in the next 2, 3 XYZ months, I want to be probably in Canada, I want to be in US, I want to be in Australia. That's also a plan, a goal. So like I said, we'll be looking at them, balance the equation from the individual perspective and also from the corporate angle as well. Then your dreams also could be properties you intend to buy, profits you want to make, savings you intend to keep, skills you intend to acquire, and the list goes on and on. But the idea here, the concept here, the catch here is that gap is the vacuum between two things. In this case, we are looking at your particular present position and your aspirations, your goals, your objectives, the things you desire to achieve. So that's actually, we'll be restricting ourselves to that definition for the purpose or throughout the duration of this training. So having looked at what, examine the meaning of gaps, look at analysis. What is analysis? Analysis, simply put, is about dissecting a situation, whether good or bad, in order to help you understand how that situation came to be in the first place and why that situation persists. So that is analysis. It's just an examination, careful examination conducted or carried out to help you analyze the situation, break a situation down. And then at the end of the day, you will be able to understand how that situation came into being and why it's still persisting. So go back to the definition of gaps that I gave you, for example. I said gap can be defined, or one of the definitions of gap is that it can be defined as the space or vacuum between your present state and that state where you desire to be, or your goals, your objectives, and your aspirations. So if we bring them down here to the definition of analysis, what we'll be asking is, where am I presently as an organization, as an individual? Where are we as an organization? Where am I presently as an individual with relation to my career, with relation to my job, with relation to my targets, and the list goes on and on. Where am I presently? And then at the end of the day, when I do the analysis of where I am, I should be able to determine, how did I get here? What brought me here? Why am I still here? Those are the questions you begin to ask during when you are doing the analysis. So when we say you are dissecting, you are simply asking a series of questions that will help you at the end of the day to arrive at an informed judgment of where you are, how you got there, and what exactly is still tying you or holding you down at that particular position. So gap analysis, if properly done, will help you to identify patterns and trends. Analysis, if properly done, will help you to identify patterns and trends. So having looked at the definition of gap, now we've seen examine the definition of analysis. Now let's look at what gap analysis is. Gap analysis can be defined as a detailed examination conducted to identify and understand the factors or reasons responsible for the existence of a gap or gaps, as the case might be. So remember again, just take your mind back to the definition of gap, a vacuum or a space that exists between your current situation or your current location or your present state and that particular place, that Eldorado, that promised land that you are envisioning for yourself or for your organization. So the difference between where you are now and that place that you are aspiring to get to or you want to be in the next X months or X years is what we are actually examining here. So gap analysis is you trying to examine or reassess your current situation to identify the reasons or the factors that are responsible for that gap that exists between you and your aspirations. Gap analysis is often necessitated by a need. So before you talk of gap, it means that there must be a need to achieve something. It could be an academic degree, a need to achieve a production target, a need to achieve a sales target, a need to expand as an organization, a need to increase your market share. So the list goes on and on. But before you can talk of gap analysis, there must be a need. And that's why I mentioned here that gap analysis is not in itself, it's not an end in itself, but rather it's a means to achieving an end. So once you are able to identify your need, then you'll be able to now ask the question, okay, fine. If this is what or where I want to be, why am I here and not there? So those are the questions you begin to ask as you progress. Now, objectives and purpose of gap analysis. The primary objective of conducting a gap analysis, one, is to help you identify where you are presently in the scheme of things, as against where you desire, or where you think you ought to be, or where you are desiring to get to. Two, it is to help you identify the gaps, the vacuum, the space between your current state and where you want or plan to be. Gap analysis is conducted to help you understand the reasons or the factors responsible for the existence of the gaps that you have identified. And then lastly, gap analysis is intended to help you devise step-by-step action plan that will now help you to bridge the gap between your current situation or your current position or your current achievement to your promised land, where you intend to be, or whatever it is you want to achieve on the other end, or the other divide, or the other side of the divide. So that's actually the objective or the purpose that gap analysis serves. So why perform gap analysis? Some of the reasons why businesses or certain individuals or entities would carry out gap analysis include some of this. One, to determine resources that will enable you as a company to achieve your target profit, your profit levels or profit margins, or your target in terms of profit. Number two, organizations carry out gap analysis to help them identify new opportunities for improving their new products or existing ones in order to boost sales. Gap analysis probably will be conducted by organizations to enable them analyze the space or the vacuum that exists in their current market. Gap analysis is conducted by organizations to enable them compare results against external criteria. That's in this case, we are referring to probably comparing your performance as an organization with that of your competitor or other persons in your industry that are within the same level as yourself. Organizations will conduct gap analysis to help them improve performance indicator-based gaps analysis. To help them improve performance at different levels, either performance in terms of their personnel, or performance in terms of their processes, or performance in relation to their products, or performance in relation to their holistic existence as a corporate entity. So these are some of the few reasons. Because of our time, I'm not able to go through them or go through everything, but at least they will be there. I would find a way to communicate the material to you so that you can go through it at your own convenience. Then some benefits of gap analysis. One is that gap analysis helps you to easily identify problems and their root cause. Gap analysis will help you to develop effective solutions to the problems that you have identified. Gap analysis will help you to track performance against goals that you have already established or plans that you have already set for yourself or for your organization or a department or a unit, as the case might be. Gap analysis will help you to make significant improvements, because at the end of the exercise, you'll be able to identify your weakness, you'll be able to identify opportunities for improvement, of which if you work on them, you'll be able to now achieve that goal that or that expectation that you have penciled down for yourself. And gap analysis will help you to enhance your efficiency and capacity. And as an organization, gap analysis will help you to enhance the satisfaction derived from your customers. The satisfaction your customers derive from your products and services. Like every other thing, the gap analysis has its own limitations, which I want us to examine here, or challenges. Some of the challenges that probably you might encounter in the course of carrying out a gap analysis would include: one, difficulty in planning, difficulty in executing your plan or carrying out the analysis, and difficulty in interpreting your results. Another challenge you may have is with time. It's actually time consuming, so you must learn to be able to manage your time. It requires in-depth analysis or knowledge of your focus area. When I say your focus area now, I'm talking of the plan that you want to achieve, or the objective that you intend to achieve, or the goal that you want to achieve, or what's the position or the place you are aspiring to get to. Now, the in-depth knowledge of that particular subject matter will help you to be able to conduct a detailed analysis. Take, for instance, your younger one, for example, or your child, either your child or your sibling who has just finished secondary school and is aspiring to become a medical doctor. Now, if that person is not does not receive the right assistance or guidance as to how, someone who will put her through on the courses to focus on in terms of JAM, the schools that you probably would pick to be able to get for effective learning, and a series of other information like that, achieving that goal at the end of the day might become a mirage. So, but in this case, if she's able to get a good, probably in the family, we have an uncle, an aunt, or a cousin or a nephew who is already in that field, then that person is going to be better informed. All he or she needs to do is to align with that person, and the person will be able to put him or her through step by step. And then the process or the journey from a school certificate holder to becoming a medical doctor will be easy and achievable for that person. So the same goes for all other areas. As an organization as well, when you are setting goals, before you be able to carry out gap analysis, you must be able to have a sound understanding of the benchmark or the basis against which you are going to be measuring your performances, or your planning, your actions, pitching your actions against. So these are some of the limitations. Then market efficiency challenges. These are some of the issues you might have in the marketplace or the market square, getting the right information when you are probably making marketing plans. So for your gap analysis to be effective, you need to have or arm yourself with the right information. So having looked at the limitations, we've looked at the concepts of gap analysis, gap analysis. We've looked at some of the benefits and considered the limitations. Let's look at the fundamentals. For gap analysis, for you to be able to effectively carry out or successfully carry out gap analysis, these elements must be in place. First, like I said, you must identify your current state. Where am I? That's the question. Where are we as an organization? Where am I as an individual? And then two, we have to identify your desired state. Your desired state here could be an objective. Your desired state could be a location. Your desired state could be a skill set. Your desired state could be a performance target. Your desired state could be a KPI. Your desired state could be a production target. So it depends on what it is you want to achieve. But for you to be able to carry out a gap analysis successfully, you must first identify your present state, where you are presently, as against where you ought to be, or where you want to be, or where you plan or intend to be. So once you're able to identify these 2 points, then it will be easy for you to now fill the space in between, which is, or identify the space in between these two, which is what? The gaps. These are the gaps. So the gaps is just you outlining, I'm here, I want to get here. What do I need to do? What are the things I need to do to be able to move from point A to point B? What are the connections that I need to make, or that I need to establish, or that I need to have? Who are the people I will need to connect with? Who are the organizations I will need to liaise with for me to be able to move from my current state to my expected or desired state or level? What are the resources that I will need to either put in place, or I will need to acquire, or I will need to hire for me to be able to move as an organization, or from this particular state to that, or achieve the state where we achieve our marketing targets, our financial targets, and other targets that we have set for ourselves, or including our vision or our mission as an organization. So these are the three key fundamentals that need to be in place before we can even talk of gap analysis at all. So the first is identifying where you are. You need to identify your present state, your present location in the scheme of things. Where are you either as an organization or as an individual? And then where are you aspiring to be? Or what plan do you have for yourself that you want to achieve? What objectives, what goals have you put in place for yourself? So once these are available, gap analysis becomes very easy. So having talked about the fundamentals, let's look at the types of gap analysis. Now, depending on your focus, the area you are focusing on, either when I say focus now, so talking of, let's from the organizational perspective or corporate perspective, probably you are focusing on finance, or you are focusing on human capital, or your focus is on ICT or IT, or your focus is perhaps on marketing, the marketplace. So it depends on your focus now. Your focus will determine the kind of gap analysis that you are going to carry out. For an organization, for example, that is concerned about the recent disconnect between your customers and the products and services you've put out there in the market, then the right kind of gap analysis for you to conduct is market gap analysis. Because remember, like I said, the key points, the focal point, the objective, the purpose of carrying out a gap analysis is one, to help you identify where you are, to help you identify where you need to be, and then to help you identify the gaps between where you are and where you need to be, and then also help you to outline actions, put in place action plan, an effective one that will help you to move from where you are to where you intend to be. And that can only happen by you addressing the gaps that you have identified. So like in the case or the example that I cited of the young man or lady who wants to become a medical doctor, one of the gaps she will need to fill, she needs to write JAMB. That's one of her gaps. She will need to write JAMB, and they probably obtain JAMB forms. You need to then prepare for it, go for lessons or lectures, look for a very good JAMB center where she'll be able to, where they'll be able to tutor her well, read very well, and prepare hard for the exams. Then pick a reputable university that has the facilities, not just where she will, at the end of the 7-year period, she will probably be assigned a job and she will not be able to, she won't even know the A to Z or the next thing to do as a medical doctor. So she needs to pick the right institution. So these are the gaps that she will need to fill. As an individual, for example, you have a product which you want to launch into the market. The first thing is to identify your target market or the target public for that product. Where are they? What exactly are their needs or their requirements in relation to the products you want to launch or you want to put out there for them to, in the market for them to buy? So these are some of the questions you are going to be asking yourself. You need to also identify their adequately their data. Is the product targeting, are you targeting women? Are you targeting men? Are you targeting the old, the elderly? Are you targeting the middle class levels? Or are you targeting children? Are you targeting teenagers? These are some of the questions you ask when it comes to the aspect of marketing. So you'll be able to, at the end of the day, when you get your gap analysis right, remember I said the focus, that's where it all starts from. What you want to achieve, the need that you want to fill. Once you are able to identify that, then the next thing is to identify where am I in the scheme of things? How do I get from point A to point B? And that is where your gap analysis will start. So that's market analysis. It has to do with trying to fix the disconnect between your customers and your products. So to ensure that the product is right for the customers, meets the customers' needs, and the customers are deriving value from the products that you have put out there in the market for them. Then also there's performance gap analysis. This has to do with comparison of trying to bridge the gap between actual performance and what is expected of you, either as an individual or as an organization. Mostly at the beginning of the year, organizations communicate to us targets. Targets in terms of, targets could be financial, your targets could be in terms of products, your targets could be in terms of customer base, your targets, so different targets that are being communicated to us. Sometimes they have to, your targets could be projects that you have to complete between start and complete between X, Y, Z period. So whatever your targets are, performance gap analysis will help you to identify the gaps between where you are presently and that performance targets that you want to realize or you want to achieve. And then from there, you'll be able to now plan based on the information you now have about the situation. Then you'll be able to plan effectively actions that will help you to meet the gaps or to cross out the gaps one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. And at the end of the day, if you're effective, your solutions are effective, that gap will be breached. That gap will be closed. You would have filled up that vacuum or filled up that gap. And then you'll be able to now cross easily or migrate easily from the other end of the divide to your expected place. or achieve your dream, as the case might be. Then we talk about compliance gap. Compliance gap gap analysis is simply trying to look at regulatory and statutory situations. Where are you in terms of your code of ethics within your organizations? Where are you as an individual? As a corporate entity, you are going to be looking at all the legal requirements that you are expected to comply with, both internal and external. Where are we as regards to that? So these are some of the questions you begin to ask yourself. Permits, in terms of permits, in terms of licenses, in terms of registrations with statutory bodies or industry regulators, or as the case might be, either your professional bodies to which you belong. These are the things you address under compliance gap. So remember, we've talked about gap has to do with comparison, comparing your actual with the expected. So if you look at under compliance gap, for example, let's look at the very common ones. We pick the personal income tax law in Nigeria. Now that law states that every registered organization must do what? You must register your staffs, register your organization first and your staffs with the relevant tax authorities in the state where you are domiciled or the state where you reside and do business from. So, and then the act goes on to say that at the end of each month, you are to deduct directly from source the correct amount payable by each, payable on the salary paid to each staff, and then put the money together and remit it to the local tax authorities that will be receiving that. In Lagos, for example, is done, the collection authority is LIRS, Lagos Inland Revenue Service. So at the end of the month, you are expected, the accounts department is expected, or the organization is expected to put together in total amount, money is deducted from staff salaries at source as payee, and that money to be remitted to Lagos State within, I think, 6 or 7 days of the successive month. Now, in terms of compliance, where you do not comply, there are penalties. That's issues with regulations. Regulations and statutory requirements, where you don't comply, there are penalties. Some of them could be severe, some of them could be mild. So as an organization, we need to, at any point in time, find out where we are. If you want to know where we are as regards to compliance with applicable regulatory and statutory requirements, then compliance gap analysis is the right tool for you to use. Then we talk about skills gap. So this just has to do with comparison between your actual skill set or the actual skill set of your employees or an employee compared or versus the required skill set, what the organization says the job holder should have, or what the client who is giving you the job is requesting for in terms of competence, your skills as the person that wants to be engaged or employed. So that's about skills gap analysis. So like I said, gap analysis varies, but what will determine the kind of gap analysis that you're going to conduct is your focus, the focus you want to achieve, the plan, the objective that you intend to achieve or you want to achieve will determine the kind of gap analysis that you are going to conduct. So let's look at the gap analysis process. We are coming to almost nearing the end now. Gap analysis process. Now, to conduct or successfully conduct the gap analysis, these are the steps, sequential steps that you need to follow. They differ anyway, but I think I did this based on at least practical experience of carrying out gap analysis. But sometimes you find in some places they will tell you 3 steps, 5 steps, 6 steps. There is really no definite number, but there is a scope that must be covered. Once that scope is covered, you are good to go. So, and what I've done here covers, or what I'm presenting here covers the scope. Now, first, you need to identify a need or choose a focus. With regards to ISO certification, for example, as an organization or as a client company, your need here might be to achieve ISO 45001 2018 certification between now and December. You know, we are in June now. So let's say between July and December, as an organization, that place where you want to be might be, you want to become an ISO certified, 45001 certified company or organization by the 31st or on or before the 31st of December. So in that case now, the first thing we need to do, once that becomes our objective, the next thing we need to do is to identify where are we presently? What do we have? in terms of health and safety, occupational health and safety. Because ISO 45001 is about ensuring or assuring the health and safety of everyone present at the workplace, security of lives and property at the workplace. So these are some, and when we say the workplace, it's not restricted to your office. Anywhere any of your staff is working within the hours of 8 to 5 is considered as the workplace. So as an organization, it's your responsibility to ensure their safety, whether they are on site or off site. As far as they are carrying out activities for you within the contracted time, that's 8 to probably 5 p.m., or as agreed between you and between the employer and the employee, it is your duty. You have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure their safety. So that's actually, so let's pick that as our objective here, so that at least we can relate with what I'm actually saying. So if that is your objective, you want to become ISO 45001 certified as an organization on or before the 31st of December. So step 2 is to identify where are we presently as an organization. What do we have? So we need to ask ourselves, what are the requirements for achieving ISO 45001 2008? For us to be able to answer that question, we need to go and consult the ISO standard. For example, one of the things you need to have is to have a documented occupational health and safety management system. The standard specifies series of documents that you need to put in place, processes, procedures that must be documented. So the question is, when we identify these documents from the standard, we now come back to where we are. Remember, that is what we want to achieve. At the end of, by the 31st, or before the 31st of December, our dream is to have that system working, have all the documents in place, and have that system on the ground running, working effectively, and yielding the desired results. So, but we are back. That's the future. Now we are bringing ourselves back to the present. All the required documents, we now use them to compile them in form of a checklist and begin to ask yourself, occupational health and safety manual. The standard says must be in place. Do we have that? Yes or no? You tick. Okay, fine. The standard says we need to identify issues in relation to our context. Have we done that? Are these documented? Yes, no, you tick. We move on again. The standard says we need to identify interested parties that are relevant for us to be able to establish that system and maintain that system. Again, have we established these persons and their expectations from us? Yes or no? You tick. We look at the areas of consultation and participation. Have we done that? You tick. You look at the areas of resources. You look at that. You tick. Competence in terms of our staff awareness regarding health and safety requirements, and the list goes on and on and on and on. You need to establish processes that will help to drive that system when it's in place. Have you done that? The standard also will say, that's yes or no. You answer the question. The standard also says you need to appoint a particular person within your system that would coordinate the entire project during implementation and after. And we usually will call such a person management rep. So the question you ask yourself is, okay, if that is going to happen in the future, presently, do we have anyone, have we appointed anyone in that capacity? Yes or no? So these are the questions you ask you on and on and on and on. Then we come down to the physical requirements. There must be, for every building, every workplace, there must be, where there's an entry, there must be an exit. Do we have that in all places? We'll go around, we inspect, and then we'll take. You also look at yourself. Factory Act, again, we'll come into this aspect. There are specifications for heights of office buildings, staircases, lift equipment. So the list goes on and on, depending on your area of operations. So at the end of the day, once you use all these requirements, you turn them to checklists or checkpoints. And then you begin to tick, yes, no, yes, no. Do we have this? Yes, no, yes, no. At the end of the day, let's assume you were able to identify 200 requirements that must be met between now and 31st of December to enable you as an organization achieve health and safety certification. Now, having done that, those 200 questions automatically constitute 200 gaps that you must fill. That means you have identified successfully 200 gaps that you must fill for you to be able to become ISO certified between now, which is where you are now, and 31st of December. So let's say after you looking at what you ticked, out of 200 requirements, you only have about 40. So how does that information help your case? What it does for you is that you have now identified those areas where you are lacking, those requirements that are lacking. And then the next thing to do now, which is, that takes us to step 4 now, which is identifying existing gaps between your dreams. We've done that. Then we move to step 5. You now plan actions to help you address those requirements that you yourself have identified that you don't have in place. For example, you were able to identify the gap analysis that you have not appointed a management system representative to coordinate the project. So what you need to do is to now decide amongst yourself as top management who is in the right position, or who do you think has the competence to be able to handle this responsibility, considering the fact that that person will be doing another job in most cases, except in an organization where you have a dedicated staff or unit for health and safety. Otherwise, you have somebody who we don't know managing his existing responsibilities plus this one, which becomes an added responsibility. So if you put someone who's not good at multitasking, you are going to have problems. So at the end of the day, you will decide, okay, let's appoint somebody. So you tick. That gap has been closed. The moment you appoint somebody and you give the person all the necessary appointment letters and every other thing as required by the ISO standard, you tick. That gap has been closed. You move to the next one. What do we need to do? We need to create staff awareness. All our members are not aware. When you say ISO 45001, they are looking at you as, what are you saying, Yoga? What is happening? Which one again is that one? They have come again. Then it means that we need to promote staff awareness regarding the requirements of ISO 9001. So we need to now, it's a job of the HR and the newly appointed management rep. They will have to work hand in hand to come up with a program that will highlight different topics, days, topics, target publics for trainings, awareness session, just like what we are doing now, to sensitize the staffs on what health and safety is all about, so that they will be, the advantage of doing that is you get them to buy into the process. So you get them to take ownership of the process. So at the end of the day, it's not going to be, I beg, leave me, John, and their team, which one be health and safety, which one be inspection again. They don't start to. One, no. The answer you got was no. So you now need to compile a list of certification bodies that offer certification in the area of health and safety in Nigeria. And then you weigh them, look at the pros and the cons. For example, if you are in the oil and gas field, the Local Content Act in Nigeria requires that when you are giving out contracts, first consideration must be given to what? Local vendors. So I will say it is best for you in that area to look for a local certification body that is a Nigerian-owned one, or a Nigerian owned by the Nigerian government, or owned and wholly managed by Nigerians. It is only where the law says where you don't find anyone of those companies owned and managed by Nigerians, then you can now consider foreign entities. But if your target public, your customers are multinationals, you don't have any problem. Just go straight for multinational certification bodies, or international ones, sorry, that are outside Nigeria. So in this case, for example, you'll be talking of BV, that's the international ones now, Believe Veritas, DMV, Intertech, SGS, the list goes on and on. But when your industry requires, when your local content is applicable to your industry, then you'll be considering probably SON, Standard Organization of Nigeria, and their likes, owned and managed by Nigerian interest or stakeholders. So then from there, you now put in place action plans. That's what we are doing now. We are on step 5. Step 6, you now carefully review all the actions you have put against each gap. There must be an action. For each gap you have identified, you must recommend a solution, an action to solve that problem. So at the end of the day, you need to review, take a second look at all the solutions you have provided. So you need to take a second look. Okay, please, let's mute. I don't know, someone is talking and it's interfering with the program.
I've muted the person, Mr. Samuel.
Okay,
go
fine,
ahead, please.
Okay, yes, good. So for each gap that you have identified, you need to profile a solution. So for step 6 says you now carefully review, either as an individual or as a team, carefully review the solutions that you have penciled down against each gap that you have identified. The essence of this is to be sure that the solution you are recommending is appropriate to the gap that you have identified, so that we don't miss anything. Remember that for example, in ISO 9001, we say you strive to do what? Getting it right the first time. So that's what we want to do, because we may not have that time again. We are considering 6 months. The project is probably will take, if you have the time, it takes between 8 months and 1 year or even more. But we are saying we want to constrain ourselves. We are going to commit ourselves to this project within 6 months. This is what we want to achieve. So we must ensure that we get it right when we are providing solutions to the gaps. That's step 6. Then step 7, where we are sure that all the solutions we have matched or penciled down against all the gaps are okay, and probably we yield the right result. Then step 7, you go ahead to implement them one after the other. And by implementation, for example, appointing the management rep is implementation. Selecting a certification body and applying registering with that certification body is one way of implementing the gaps that we have identified. We were also able to identify that our staffs don't really, in terms of awareness about health and safety requirements, they are lacking. Then we provide trainings, series of trainings, and then we send some of them for external training. Some of them are probably internal trainings. We started conducting these trainings. That's implementation. So we are doing implementation. Stage 7 is doing everything you have written down that will help you to eliminate or reduce the gaps that you have identified. So when we talk about closure of gaps, it's either you have 2 options. Some gaps can be totally eliminated, while some can only be reduced. You can't eliminate them. So the only thing you can do is to minimize or mitigate the fallouts. So when you are also planning actions, this is what you need to have in mind. The gap in question, is this something you can eliminate? Yes. If yes, then come up with a proportionate or appropriate solution that will eliminate it. If it's the one that you cannot eliminate, that you have to manage or live with, then come up with a solution that will help you to manage that situation to your advantage. So implementation is simply about putting all your actions, your plan, into action. Taking action with regards to the plans that you have penciled down against, pencil down to you to help you eliminate or reduce the gaps that you have identified. Then step 8, take notes of your achievements. As you are implementing all the actions you have penciled down, also be taking records of your achievements. When you did this, what happened? When you did this, what happened? Oh, we said we're going to register with certification, but have we done that? Yes, note that. Have we appointed a rep? Yes, note that. Have we done staff awareness? Yes, note that. In terms of consultation, have we met with all our contractors, met with all our stakeholders to carry them along? Now that we are thinking of getting a certified, yes, then we'll begin to note them down. So step 9, you now compare your achievements vis-a-vis your plan, your dream, your need that you identified in step 1. So you now compare the two. At the end of your comparison, you are likely to identify new gaps that you probably did not think of before. Okay, so that means if you never thought of them, it means there are no plans to cover them. So in the course of implementing the plans you already have in place, you are likely to come up to discover new ones. And then based on that, you will need to identify those new ones. You repeat the same cycle, identify a gap, prefer appropriate or lasting practicable solutions to close the gap. So once you have done that, you will now use this new information that you have to update that your existing plan, so that your existing plan can now incorporate the new actions that you have put in place from your new discoveries to identify all the other new gaps that you have discovered or uncovered. So you improve on your plan. That's step 11. And then step 12, having improved on your plan, you've assessed yourself. Where are we? Maybe let's say by October. Remember, the plan is December. On or before 31st of December, you want to be ISO 45001 certified. So by October, you are probably, or let's say every month, the plan is that at the end of each month, we are going to hold a meeting to assess where we are in the scheme of things. Out of the 164 or 62 or 150 gaps that we identified in the beginning, how many of them have we closed to date? And let me make mention of the fact that when you are planning actions to address gaps, you must put timelines, specify timelines, completion timelines for achieving each of those actions that you have put in place. So at the end of, well, let's say we started the project 1st of July, for example, by the end of July, we are going to be checking all the actions, all the gaps that are actionable between 1 month. How far have we fared with them? Have we been able to close them out effectively? Yes, no. We learn lessons, we adjust, and then we move on to phase 2. That is month of August. We again, by the end of August, we'll come back again to hold a brief meeting to assess the situation. All the activities we pencil down for July and August. Now we have come to the end of August. Have we achieved them? Yes, no. We then, if you have not achieved them, you need to identify what were the factors, what are the underlying factors that held you down or prevented you from being able to achieve them. So once you're able to do that, you make the necessary adjustments. And then for step 12, you continue again, the process continues until that goal is achieved. You are going to continue implementing, you are going to continue making changes, you are going to continue making improvements between July until the 31st of December. So by the 31st of December, we'll now come back to take a holistic view at the entire project. Remember that the main goal in need that we have identified, or what we say the achievements we have penciled down, is that by on or before the 31st of December, we want to become an ISO certified, 45001 certified organization. So here we are, 30th of December, or probably 25th of December. We are now assessing ourselves. Where are we in the scheme of things? Have we fully implemented the systems? Have we undertaken stage 1 certification? Have we done stage 2 certification? Or have we done everything? Have we received the certification? Or are we awaiting our certificates from the certification bodies? Or probably we were not able to achieve or close out all the 164 gaps as we actually thought in July. So at the end of this, where are we now? Maybe your rep will now give you the feedback that we will only be able to close 80 out of the 150 gaps. Then it means that dream of becoming certified by December is no longer possible. So what do? You are not going to jettison the dream. All you need to do again is to review the plan. The dates will now change. Give yourself another 6 months, which means, okay, if we could not achieve it by 31st of December, let's give ourselves another 6 months. That becomes January, from 1st of January 2025 to June 30th or 31st, 2025. And then we continue again. Actions, and then we are closing out the gaps one after the other. So that's the process involved in gap analysis. Then let's look at gap reporting. Remember that we said the gap analysis is often necessitated by a need or a want or an objective, something you want to achieve, or a vision or a mission that you want to achieve. So having conducted the gap, there is need, especially within the corporate setting, there is always need for you for accountability. That means you have to go back to the persons who assigned you. Say, for example, you were appointed as the management rep. One of your responsibilities as the management rep, either for ISO 9001 or 45001 or 14,001 or 22,000 or whichever standard it is that you are managing, one of your key responsibilities is reporting to management on the performance of that system that you have put in place. So when you conduct gap analysis, there is need for you to give feedback to the relevant authorities. Some persons are waiting. There are certain strategic decisions that need to be taken, but they can't do that without the right information. So they are waiting on the outcome of the gap analysis that you have conducted, so that they'll be able to take what? Decisive actions. So that takes us to reporting gap analysis or gap analysis reporting. So to effectively communicate the outcome, the results, the findings. Remember when I was giving the definition of gap analysis, an examination that you carry out to be able to ascertain the factors that are responsible for where you are and what you need to do to get to your intended destination. So you need to report your findings. So for you to effectively communicate the results or the outcome of the analysis that you have conducted, number one, you must reestablish the intent for the gap analysis, the reason, the core reason, the main reason why you actually embarked on that analysis. You have to revisit it again so that you'll be properly guided in your reporting. Then number two, you have to determine your audience or your recipients. Who are you giving this report to? Is it the MD? Is it the head QHSC manager? Or who are the recipients? You need to identify them. Three, you need to, that is, yes, two, you determine your audience. Three, the format is very important. And the format is going to be dependent on the audience or the recipients of your information. If, for example, you are sending the report strictly to top management, then please forget about, what's it called now? Do less of qualitative reporting or analysis. That's storytelling now. That's what I mean by that. Because they don't have the time to read 14 pages, 18 pages report. No, they don't have that time. They are strategic thinkers. And they need time to really reason. So they don't have time for too many details. When your report is going to top management, do more with statistics. Do more of stats. And then highlight, summary. Even if you are going to write, let it be brief. You summarize. Don't tell too much stories. Summarize. The summary. Let your report be summarized. And yes, a 1 or 2 page report will do. If you can't compress everything into 1 page, at least try as most to use 2 pages. That's why I said you preferably use statistical tools, pie charts, histograms, diagrams. They will help you out a lot. A 3-4 page document can actually be summarized using just 1 table, statistical table. So you need to take your audience into cognizance when deciding on the format to use. But if your report is going to cut across, or if your audience will cut across the various stratas and levels of the organization, that's top management, middle level, and low level management, then you have to now factor these 3 groups in arriving at the format, appropriate format. Remember that some people on the first level are not too educated. So when you put a lot of statistics, a lot of diagrams, pie charts, histograms, you are going to get them confused. So you have to look for a mix of the two that will work, something that will work for both the top level, the middle level, or the first level employees. At most, to be on the safer side, you can actually prepare that report in 3 different versions. The same report, the same content, but presentation is different. Present the statistical form to top management, the combination of both qualitative and quantitative report, a combination of the two, you can give that to the middle level. Why for the first level, you do more of qualitative, do more of the storytelling, explaining in detail, breaking everything down in simple English and grammar that you'll be able to understand so that you can actually carry them along. Then step 4, having identified the format, prepare your report, highlighting the main findings. Like I said, summary is what we need. Then 5, you provide practical solutions. Remember that gap analysis is about identifying problems, identifying gaps, identifying vacuums, identifying shortcomings. So once you have identified all these deficiencies, all these problems, all these gaps, there is need for you to provide solutions. It's very important. You don't just identify the gaps and dump the report with every other person there. You are going to create serious issues. So you need to provide appropriate solutions that are appropriate to each problem. practical solutions, realistic ones, real life situations, not textbook situations or solutions that will not, that are only achievable in textbooks. So you need to come up with solutions, realistic ones that are achievable and realizable for each problem that you have identified. Then you can also now state the cost and benefit of adhering to the solutions that you have put in place. If we do this that I've recommended, these are going to be the benefits for the organization, which means the opposite of that is the consequences of not doing or carrying out, of negligence, of not carrying out the actions. So you need to state the cost and benefits. If we do this, that are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I've recommended, this is going to be the benefit to the organization in naira and kobo, or qualitative and quantitative forms. You need to do that. That's for your reports to be, for it to sell or for it to sail through. You need to do that. Then you need to state the resource requirements, resources that will be required. This plan that you have vision, this viable plan that you have put in place, or you are asking them to embark on, these actions you are asking them to carry out, you need to specify. You will need to specify what are the resource requirements. What are we going to need as an organization to be able to achieve your recommendations? And then 8, you need to assign responsibilities. All the activities or the actions you have recommended, you need to tie them to 1 or 2 persons. Assign them to 1 or 2 persons within the system. Oh, the head of HR will be the one to handle awareness, promotion, and trainings. In terms of consultation to boost staff participation or to boost interested party vendors, contractor participation, either the HODs will do that or the health and safety manager will handle that. By doing that, what you are doing is you are already allocating responsibilities or assigning responsibilities. You are tying each solution or each action you have recommended or profiled to a particular person. So you know who to hold responsible. Then the next thing will be to set timelines, benchmarks that are going to use to measure performance along with completion timelines for the actions that you are recommending. So this will be communicated to the persons that you have assigned to carry out those tasks. Oh, one of the things you recommended is that awareness promotion trainings on health and safety management issues should be conducted for all members of staff between June and August. In terms of responsibility, I put it there that the head of human resources and admin will be the one working in collaboration with the health and safety manager or representative, are going to be the ones to be responsible for the implementation of this recommendation. So having said that, it means that on 31st of August, we know who to hold responsible. When we are probably trying to find out if all the staffs, the trainings have been done and the staffs are now aware. For example, if one of the solutions I preferred, based on the gap identified, is that staffs do not have the requisite PPEs to be able to carry out the jobs that have been assigned to them. Remember, we said it's about ensuring health, securing the health and safety of lives and properties within the workspace or the workplace. So if the recommendation based on the gap analysis done is that we do not have as an organization the requisite personal protective equipment for staff to work with, then the recommendation I'm giving is that all the I will have to list out all the PPEs, identify them in my report, and then assign the persons in charge of procurement. Let's say we have a procurement unit, and then I will state there that the procurement department will be responsible for providing all these PPEs within June and September. So come ending of September, we know who to hold responsible when we identify that there are still some staffs who don't have safety boots, or who don't have hard hats, or who don't have eye goggles, or who don't have hand gloves or coverall for them to work with, and other safety, equipment. We know who to hold responsible. So that's actually setting parameters, timelines for evaluation or implementing the solutions once we start actioning them. Then number 10, once I've done this in my report, I will now communicate the report. The report is ready. I will just review to ensure the adequacy and correctness of the information. And once that is done, I will send or circulate the report to the authorized persons, not everybody, to the authorized persons. One of the requirements of ISO 45001 or 9001 or any other ISO standard is communication. It says you must, for every one, you must identify communications that are relevant to the particular management system that you are operating or that you are implementing or that you are maintaining. 2, you must be able to identify what will be discussed in relation to that system, when the discussion is or the communication will take place, how that communication will be made, who is going to be responsible for that communication, and the list goes on and on of the requirements that we need to make in terms of communication. So when you are circulating this report, the first question is, who are the authorized persons to receive this report? The area report must not end at the desk of anybody who is outside that group. That's document control in relation to any other ISO standard that you're implementing. Then, so we ensure that that is communicated. And then at the end of the day, we entertain feedbacks. You have sent out reports. There are going to be feedbacks. There are going to be queries. There are going to be criticisms. People who would say, oh, you did this, you didn't do this right, or you didn't consider this, the solution you provide is not too okay. Fine. So entertain their feedback, their queries, and the likes, and then constructively respond to them. And then lastly, you follow up and monitor the progress of the implementation. Once you start implementing those recommendations or those solutions you have preferred, you need to follow up to ensure that things are being done rightly or correctly by the persons that have been assigned to do them. So based on that point, I think we've come to the conclusion of the awareness training or the knowledge sharing training as this is now in the segment for questions and answers. So if you have any, please, let's have your questions. For anyone who has questions, let's have your questions.
Okay, thank you very, very, very much, Mr. Momo Samuel. We really, really appreciate you taking our time to be able to dissect this and help us have a better understanding of how to go about, understanding data analysis and gap analysis, and also what we can do step by step. We really appreciate. At this point, we would want to entertain questions. If you would want to speak, all you need to do is raise your hands, and we'll call on you to ask your question. And you can also drop your question on the chat box, and I'll read it out and it will be addressed. So if you have a question, please unmute yourself and ask. I can't see any hands up. Does this mean no question? Okay, Mr. Deji Olorfemi has his hands up. Please unmute yourself and speak.
Okay, good morning, Adobe. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's been a very good delivery from Mr. Samuel. I must comment his presentation. He did quite well justice to the fundamental of gap analysis. So not a question, but a commendation, and a very good one from NECA. Thanks so much. I think this is quite impressive, and we must commend it. And it's an improvement version, or it's an improved version of the last edition. So thank you very much. That is what I have to say.
Welcome, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Deji. We appreciate, and that feedback means a lot to us. We have a question in the chat box, and I would go ahead and read to the house just to help us address the question. Okay. So the question says, Mo Asmi said, what actions may be taken when the gap is related to currency inflation and plan is always changed to the most urgent. Mr. Samuel, so the question said, what actions may be taken when the gap is related to currency inflation and plan is always changed to the most urgent?
Now, one thing is certain about inflation is that inflation is not static. It's something that changes over time. So which means that when you are coming up with solutions to deal with a gap that is currency inflation related, whatever solution you are putting in place, number one must be appropriate to that gap, and then number two must be flexible so that you'll be able to adjust at any point in time. Say, for example, you fixed you have a procurement related gap, and then you need to make provisions, probably to import some items to close that gap. And as at the time you were probably profiling or making the solutions, the value of the dollar to naira, for example, is 1,500 naira at that point in time. Remember that you are still going to run through some processes, getting from M to the bank and all that, getting approval to get dollars, which might take probably some 1 or 2 or 3 weeks to sort out. Now, it is important that when you are embarking on this plan, whatever you are setting as your margin, the exchange rate for that solution should not be static. So you put a plus or minus, a caveat on it. So should in case the dollar hits, remember that at the time you were planning, the value was, exchange rate was 1,500 naira to a dollar. By the time you would have probably run through all the approvals, and then probably after 2-3 weeks, before you eventually would want to send your request to your supplier, foreign supplier, probably the dollar has moved to 1,800. What do you do? In that case, my advice would be that make sure all the plans you are putting in place in relation to currency inflation, especially in a country like Nigeria, are not static. Let them be flexible, very flexible, so that at any point in time, you can actually make necessary amendments or adjustments for that solution to still fly. So I don't know if I've answered your question, please.
Okay, we have another question. Okay, I think I will take this one. Someone is asking if we'll be having the handouts for this session. Okay, so this session is a recorded session, and it will be on our YouTube channel. I've shared the link to our YouTube channel already. However, I would still be sharing it again to your email addresses. Okay, so as we're rounding up, I noticed that the managing director of NGCL joined. I don't know if you would want to say hello to us before we close officially.
Okay.
Mr. Norua Edobolosa.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm at the airport. I
Good
don't know if
morning,
you are
sir.
hearing the noise in the background. Have we finished, Ada?
Yes, sir, we have, sir.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So first, I'd like to say a big thank you to Mr. Momo for taking out time to share his knowledge with us. And I want to thank all those who have joined this edition of our knowledge sharing session. I hope you gained some value from it. This is part of our effort as the NGCL to just help our clients improve their knowledge. That's what we call it, a knowledge sharing session. And starting from this edition, we're going to be having this session every month. So just book it down that the last Thursday of July, by the grace of God, we'll be having another edition of the knowledge sharing session. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm sorry I couldn't join all the way. I will, of course, go back to the YouTube and I will listen. And I hope you told them about our services and the training that are available.
Yes, sir. We have.
Could you also just talk about the food safety thing that we're doing, just in case anybody's interested in joining us?
Yes, sir.
Please share that information also. I have to leave now. I'm sorry, just so I can catch up with the chance.
No
Thank you
problem,
so
sir.
much, everybody, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, sir. So we really appreciate you, Mr. Edokolo, for being able to say hello to us in spite of your very busy schedule. At this point, I would want to remind you that the organizers of this knowledge sharing session is NECA'S Global Certification Limited. We're a certification limited company that offers certification and training services to organization, both quality management system, environmental management system, food safety, HAC, and all others. We also have a wide range of companies here in Nigeria that we have certified. We would prompt you to visit our website on www.ngcl.org.ng. Also, I have dropped our contact number and email address on the chat box in case you have any need to reach out to us, which we believe you will. Reach out to us and we'll be available to take on any concerns, questions, or business that you would bring to us. Also, just a reminder that this session is recorded, and we have a YouTube channel. I've also shared the link, and I would still be doing that again via your email addresses. We encourage you to join our WhatsApp group. We have a knowledge sharing WhatsApp group. The group is specifically just for knowledge sharing. We talk about issues and concerns that affect management systems in Nigeria. So the link is also in the chat box, and would also do well to share it to your email addresses. Thank you very, very much, everyone, for all of us that joined in at the beginning and stayed till the end. It means a lot to us, and we believe strongly that with continuous awareness and knowledge sharing regarding management system, our organizations would do better and the country at large. Thank you very much. This is me signing out. I'm Mrs. Adobe Chibuzo again. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Ìwọ ló lájò sí, ó ń jẹ tó dùn ló lájò.